This week, mud, glorious mud, smart matchboxes, and what happens when you get to see for the first time in years. The sun is finally out in the UK and festival season is upon us. And to celebrate the good weather, we find ourselves at the world-famous Hay Literary Festival. Nestled at the border of England and Wales, Hay on Wye has been home to the event for over 30 years. I love the Hay Festival. You can come here and you can fill your brains with all kinds of new knowledge on all kinds of subjects delivered by all kinds of brilliant speakers. And when you've done that, you can come and see us doing our live show too. Yes, once again, Click Live hit the hay. We talked robots, we explained in detail about how our brains develop, and we built an artificial intelligence using matchboxes. Please welcome Maisy McAdam and Willow. But possibly the most magical moment of all of our Click Live shows starred Maisy McAdam and her dog Willow. About 6 years ago, at the age of 16, Maisy was diagnosed with a brain tumour. Over the next few months, her vision was reduced to a tiny, blurry circle in just her right eye. So if you want to pop those onto Maisy now. Well, Maisy had agreed to try, on stage, the latest version of these Give Vision goggles. They use magnifiers and augmented reality to amplify the wearer's remaining vision and highlight outlines. Maisy, are they working?
Yeah, I can see your microphone and I can see that you're smiling and I can see the buttons on your shirt.
Take a look at the audience.
Yeah, they're waving. I can see there's a lady in the front with a red jacket. The guy next to her is wearing stripes. Oh my god, it's so amazing. So I didn't quite realise how many people were there, and then I put them on and I could see everybody in the audience. It was a really scary feeling, actually.
Something Maisy felt especially robbed of through this traumatic experience was her ability to read her favourite books. So we have a copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone here. Do you think you'd be able to read us just the first couple of sentences if I hold the microphone up? Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. It made me really happy that I could, have that back. That thing that was taken away from me, to have it back was really lovely. Really do miss the sensation of buying a book, bringing it home and reading the book. To think that in the future this kind of technology might be quite mainstream and that ability will be back for me, it's a really wonderful feeling. It's been a very overwhelming experience, but a really great one as well. I'm really grateful.
This really was an emotional moment for all of us. But what about other types of visual impairment? Well, Jen Copestake has been looking at a piece of technology that's aimed at people who are colourblind. But does it work?
It looks so different. Not joking, it looks so different.
That's the real world, Pops. That's how we see colour.
This was the moment 9-year-old Sebastian tried his Enchroma glasses for the first time. Designed to help improve the sight of people with certain colour deficiencies, Sebastian's video is similar to many others posted online.
There's so many different greens.
Oh my god, sweetie.
Some of these videos have millions of views on YouTube.
Your bag!
And a quick internet search turns up dozens of fundraising pages set up by families trying to raise money to buy a pair. This could be because the glasses are not cheap, with starting prices of $349 for adults and $269 for children, with similar prices in the UK. Sebastian's dad Chris first heard about the glasses through watching a video and was keen for his son to try them out.
I think that you probably feel, like with all disabilities for children, powerless and very keen to try to do anything that you can to improve or correct, even partially, that disability.
Sebastian was born with a genetic colour deficiency called protonomalous trichromacy. This gives a person reduced sensitivity to red light in particular, and people with this deficiency are often called red-green colourblind. About 8% of men and 0.5% of women worldwide have a degree of colour deficiency in their sight. I met Sebastian and his dad at the Institute of Ophthalmology at University College London. So I've got this book here. What colour do you see that as?
I think it's red, but I know it's pink.
So I find that fascinating. So put your glasses on and tell me what it looks like.
Now I see it is definitely pink.
If you take those glasses off again, we've got quite a few balloons here. So what colour do you see that balloon as?
I see it as green, but I know it's orange.
Wow. And with the glasses on?
No, I just see it as orange.
As orange, yeah. The glasses are said to work using spectral notch filters, which actually removes part of the colour spectrum. Professor Andrew Stockman is going to run through some traditional colour deficiency tests with Sebastian.
So Sebastian, these are called Ishihara tests, and they're tests for colour deficiency. So this example you can definitely see, all people can see, or most people can see.
Yeah.
What number do you see there?
A 12.
Okay.
The Ishihara test works by showing a number that is a slightly different colour to the dots on the background. The glasses don't seem to be helping Sebastian with this test.
So do you see any numbers there?
No.
And how about here? Do you see any numbers here? No?
No.
Well, don't worry.
I think it's a 10.
Okay, so with the glasses, does it change it at all?
I slightly think it's a 20.
Okay, that's closer. So Sebastian, it slightly improves your discrimination, but you still wouldn't pass the colour test.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
There are slightly better results with this test, which looks at different colours of wool.
This one changes so much.
So much.
It changes from a green
Yeah.
to a very standard pink.
And this one, where Sebastian said he saw a shape he couldn't see without the glasses.
So I see that as a pink circle and a pink triangle on a grey background.
Yes.
What do you see?
I saw it as just this blue circle.
Okay.
Put the glasses on, I saw a triangle here.
Yeah. Oh, so before did you not see any triangle?
No.
So what's going on?
Yeah, you're removing part of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But that changes the apparent colour of light.
And it's more than a placebo effect?
Oh yes, it definitely changes the appearance of coloured lights.
I spoke to the company's president via Skype from California, who said the glasses are only sold as an optical assistive device.
It's important to understand that the glasses are not a cure for color blindness. They should help the person see color in many situations, but they don't necessarily provide normal color vision.
Recent peer-reviewed research from the University of Granada conducted on 48 people with colour vision deficiency concluded the Enchroma glasses introduce a variation of perceived colour, but don't improve results in diagnostic tests for colour deficiency or give the wearers normal colour vision. Enchroma provided us a statement regarding this study, saying that only its indoor use glasses were used on 2 tests, with the subjects wearing the glasses for a few minutes at a time. This, they said, would tend to minimise any results. For Chris, the science behind the glasses is less important than the experience his son gets while wearing them.
Yes, of course, if I thought that him wearing the glasses was harmful, then I'd be far more concerned about that. If it's a parlour trick, to be brutally honest, I don't really care.
But others may expect more definitive results, especially considering the luxury price tag and marketing hype.
Hello and welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week that Huawei founder Ren Zhengfei said he would be the first to protest if China banned Apple. The Chinese company is seeking to overturn its own US ban. Mark Zuckerberg has been feeling the heat in Europe. Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram were outed as the most investigated companies by Ireland's data privacy watchdog. The Commission says 11 out of 19 of its probes were targeted at the trio. In better news, British scam victims conned out of money online are now more likely to get their cash back. 8 banks, including Barclays, RBS and Lloyds, have promised to offer better protections to customers, which should mean more refunds. This Pokeball isn't just for collecting Pokemon, it could help you catch up on your sleep too. The Bluetooth tracker lets players earn in-game rewards for sleeping well. Roblox is one of the most successful multiplayer games targeted at children, but there are fears it is being used for grooming. Its creators say it has strict filters in place to stop inappropriate behaviour and blame any misuse on third-party apps not affiliated with the company. And finally, the world's first raspberry-picking robot is set to work on a British farm. It may be slow now, but Fieldwork Robotics says its bot should soon be able to pick about 25,000 berries a day, nearly double what a human can pick. Not bad given how delicate these tiny fruits are. Fingers crossed things don't go pear-shaped.
Our phone cameras have been getting better and better over the years, with all of the big players constantly trying to outdo each other. But now some of the Chinese phone manufacturers seem to be leading the way. With features like 5x optical zoom, I'm putting some of the latest devices to the test with a spot of help. Nick Turpin has spent 20 years as a leading street photographer, working in London and New York, so he knows a thing or two about cameras. Hi Nick, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
First up is the OnePlus 7 Pro. The stats are impressive, plus a few nice touches. There's no punch hole, there's no notch, so when I press the selfie camera, well, it needs to come from somewhere. Look at that. It comes out the top. If your phone thinks it's being dropped, this happens. It goes back in. Anyway, easy to get distracted by that.
Exactly.
I think what we actually want to do is test 3 different focal
Let's
lengths
take some
to start
photographs.
with. And you are the person to do that.
So this is 1-to-1 ratio, we're getting exactly what we see. As soon as we zoom right into the city there is a little bit of a loss of sharpness.
Yeah.
Little bit of loss of acutance. When it's zoomed out though, it makes a very respectable landscape photograph. I'm going to go all the way into 10 times, which is the maximum zoom for the phone. Now you see that's quite shaky now, so you really need to almost stop breathing.
This phone has a 3x optical zoom, and then beyond that it's starting to do it digitally. So I suppose we're going to expect some loss in quality after that 3x.
Yes, as soon as you move from an optical zoom to a digital zoom, you're enlarging the information that you already have, so you're losing a little bit of sharpness and detail.
And the 10x zoom?
It could be a little sharper, but we've managed to get all the windows, all the cranes. There's really quite good detail there for a 10x zoom on a smartphone.
Next up, the Oppo Reno 5G.
There's so much more detail. It almost looks a little over-sharpened. I think there's some processing going on, but there is good detail in the windows of the buildings there. I think it's done a slightly better job.
And the 10x?
Well, you can see individual church towers and trees, cranes, every single window in every single building.
And from the controversial Huawei comes their offering, the P30 Pro.
The volume buttons are on the wrong side for taking a picture. So when you hold it horizontally, there's no clicker here to take a picture.
Designed for left-handed people, maybe?
It's much better for left-handed people. I don't think the image looks quite as nice as the previous phone, but we still have good detail in the sky and in the shadows, and that's something that I look for as a photographer. So here's the 10x zoom. It does look more natural. I think it's probably the nicest image of the 3 that we've seen.
Okay, but it also has a 50x zoom.
Amazing.
Wow, is it humanly possible to be still enough?
So that's so zoomed in,
okay.
I can see a single tower block on the screen. So I'm going to try, it's very difficult to use actually. You almost need to put a smartphone on a tripod, which kind of defeats the object of having a mobile telephone. The zooming in of the 50x is quite impressive, but I'm not sure the image is really usable for a great deal.
We also tested them in portrait mode.
Plus, tonally this is very nice. It's not too contrasty, the colour balance looks good. On the Oppo in the middle, the colour balance doesn't look so good. This looks very cold and blue. I don't think the camera has judged the lights quite so well.
And the Huawei.
This is the one which I think looks a little bit over-processed and a little bit too saturated, and the contrast is so high. See how dark your face is there?
As a non-professional, I actually have been quite liking that look. I suppose they look like they've been edited a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think a natural picture like this has good skin tones and so on. The more contrasty one would probably look better posted on Instagram or on social media.
Yeah.
Whereas this one will probably make a better print.
The screens on the Oppo and Huawei were easier to see in the sun than that on the OnePlus, but all the phones also feature modes for dealing with low light. Nick was pretty wowed by what a smartphone camera can now achieve, but what was his overall verdict?
I think I was incredibly impressed probably by the Oppo. For me as a professional photographer, I thought it had a really nice blend of good tonality. It wasn't too contrasty, it wasn't too processed, and it had good detail and sharpness. I think the Huawei did look a little bit digital. Some of the colours looked a little unnatural, and I think probably the OnePlus was my least favourite.
Okay, more flowers now, and these beautiful tulips were generated by a computer program. The realism is uncanny, and that's because the algorithm that generated them was trained on 10,000 pictures of real tulips. Anna Ridler, the artist behind this work, then hand annotated each picture.
For each photograph I wrote what colour it was, how stripy it was, what type of tulip it was, kind of like what state it was in, so if it was a bud or if it was dead. And then I used that information to then use machine learning to train an algorithm to produce these moving image pieces. I had read about tulip mania, which was this period in Dutch history in the 1630s where the price of a tulip went for, at one point, the same price as an Amsterdam townhouse, and it's the first known speculative bubble. And I was interested in kind of comparing this moment in history with speculation that is going on now around cryptocurrencies. So in this piece, the tulips, as they're kind of jittering and flickering, that is because the way that the tulips are being created by the algorithm is controlled by the price of Bitcoin. So as the tulips change, that's because the price of Bitcoin is changing.
As beautiful as these tulips are, every so often the realism falls away and you start to see the artifice.
Part of the reason that I display my data set as a separate work is to really kind of emphasize the humanness and the humanity that sits behind all of these processes.
So here the machine learned what a tulip looks like at each stage of its life cycle. But machine learning is used in lots of different ways. It already helps doctors to care for their patients, bankers to care for their clients' money, and it's used by our voice assistants to care for our needs.
Alexa, living room, evening, on.
Kind of. But even though machine learning applications are becoming more infused into our daily lives, most of us know very little about how it all actually works. Until now. Because at Click Live at Hey, we showed our audience how a machine could learn to play noughts and crosses. It's a machine called Menace, and it's made of matchboxes. There are 304 different combinations of noughts and crosses that you can have in a game of noughts and crosses. And over here are 304 different matchboxes. Each one corresponds to one of those combinations. So when the game gets to a certain state, you look through the matchboxes here and find the one that matches that permutation of noughts and crosses, give it a shake and pull out a bead at random. Now I've pulled out a pink bead, which means that Menace plays its next move there. At the start of the day, the boxes contained the same number of beads of each colour. Every time Menace won, it was rewarded with more of the right colour beads. When it made a mistake, those beads were taken away. To start with, Menace's moves were entirely random, causing it to lose most of the time. But as the day progressed, those bead colours started to shift to match the best moves that Menace could make in any one position. After about 70 games, Menace could force a draw almost every time, which in noughts and crosses is pretty much the best you can hope for. I drew against the matchboxes, yay. This random trial and error method with so-called reinforcement learning is exactly how machines learn. It's usually done at incredible speed, playing millions and millions of iterations. Now, machine learning, so say its advocates, may one day solve the world's most pressing problems, from climate change to finding cures to deadly diseases. But some think it may bring about the end of the world. Well, certainly seems that the end of the world is something the games industry has been obsessed about for a while. Mark Gislak has been playing yet another title set after the apocalypse.
Rage 2 is a first-person shooting and driving game set in an explorable post-apocalyptic open world, a landscape populated with mutants, cyborgs and mohawked bad boys and girls out for blood. Sound familiar? Loads of games this year have a similar setup. And in an effort to find a new way to talk about a title like this, I'm going to have to take radical steps.
We scoured the globe in search of a location which could match the harsh desolation of a post-apocalyptic landscape. Our search brought us here, Suffolk, in the rain.
In Rage 2, the player assumes the role of a ranger, one of the last remaining symbols of order in a world devastated by a giant asteroid strike. Developed by Avalanche Studios teaming up with id Software of Doom and Quake fame, it's also not entirely serious, looking and playing like a shouty Dayglow version of the end of the world. It's silly and a bit gross. The closest thing we could find to tearing across the wasteland is banger racing. Here we have specially adapted vehicles with sturdy safety cages fitted, which is handy. Rage 2 is a fairly daft game, so this seems like a fairly daft way to review it.
This is my chariot. Definitely doesn't come with parking sensors.
As the bangers line up ready to race, it gives me time to reflect on the driving aspects of the game. To get from mission to mission and to explore the wasteland, the player is initially equipped with the Phoenix Off-Roader, which offers a good mix of weapons and versatility. My stripped-out Super Mini is positively pedestrian in comparison. There are different vehicles scattered across the giant game map, an open world that is perhaps a little too open. There's often lots of travelling with very little going on. Thankfully, the mud-filled track I have to drive around here is a lot smaller than the explorable world of the game.
As the name suggests, Rage 2 is not a super chill, relaxing video game. It's all about racing off-road vehicles across a post-apocalyptic wasteland and shooting stuff with a wide variety of weird and exotic weapons.
When running around first person, those weird weapons are a core part of the title, allowing players to dispatch enemies in increasingly over-the-top and not at all safe for TV ways.
And what isn't nice is because I don't have a windscreen or windows, all of this mud, when someone drives past you, ends up in your mouth. Yep, load of mud in the mouth again. Cheers for that.
Of course, driving in conditions like this can only end one way.
Ho-ho!
Ultimately, Rage 2 is a bit like hurtling around this muddy track at breakneck speed. Great fun when you're doing it, but not an experience that stimulates the grey matter all that much.
That was Mark, and it may not be the end of the world as we know it, but it is the end of the show from Hey. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride, and if you need us during the week, we live on all the usual places: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter at BBC Click. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.